I'm standing here in Brighton Pavilion because it's a constituency where I live, it's my home. And my hope is to represent my community, my neighbours in Westminster. I know people don't like politicians who are parachuted in to a seat they're not familiar with. That's not my intention, it's not what I'm doing. I'm here to represent my neighbourhood. I've been a teacher, I've advised governments for the Commonwealth, I've headed up human rights work at Amnesty International, I've taught in higher education as well as further education. I became a single mum at the age of 40, I'm an immigrant, I don't live in a fancy house, I'm not a rich person, I work for my living. So all I've got is real world experience to offer my neighbours in terms of representing them, and I think that really, really matters. I think there's a mood of engagement, there's an intense mood of disappointment, and there is in some places a sense of alienation too, as we see elsewhere in the country. A lot of people are unhappy with the way politics at Westminster is done, and they're unhappy with the people who represent their community. That's a real danger, because we don't want that to grow. We want people to feel that they have a say and have value. There is value in engaging with what's happening in Westminster. I've worked for 25 years on issues of violence against women, human rights and international development, and before that I've taught in further education with people who've really been ill-served by the educational system. I've lived in areas where housing has been a real concern, in London and now here, and my campaigning reflects that sort of experience. Housing is one of the most often raised issues in terms of the cost of housing to buy, the cost of housing to rent, the rip-off fees charged by letting agents, the quality of housing. People here are also very concerned about the planet on which they live, climate change and the impact it's having on them. I am very concerned, as are most women in this country, that we have a ridiculous charge of VAT on sanitary ware. And I see that essentially as a tax on womanhood, and I'd like to change that. And another area is the way in which academy schools have been exempted from reporting racial incidents. And I know how very distressed people are that their kids who are having a hard time, and they do, in certain schools have no form of redress or recording what's happening to them. So I'd want to make that compulsory. The composition of Parliament is primarily people who've come through a single track. It's private education, Oxbridge education, political advisor role, or straight into politics. It absolutely does not reflect the nature of the country, nor does it bring the experience into Westminster of most people and what they're dealing with through their lives. So I'd like to see a real change in that representation, more women, more ethnic minorities, more people with disabilities. The primary role of an MP is to serve their constituents in making legislation for the country. So it's a very tricky balance, isn't it?